Hey everyone, it's Mary Jo. Hope everyone's having a great week so far. I'm gonna hang here for a minute, let people join in, come on into either Facebook or LinkedIn, wherever you may be, and see who joins us. So I'm excited to be able to come talk with you all today. It's been an interesting week for me. Talked a little bit yesterday about just some sad news in our neighborhood. Um, and it was a great reminder of how valuable our time is, how short life can be, and how we need to make the most of every moment. So I had to take something meaningful away from what happened yesterday, and I really wanted to focus on that aspect of it. So I'm here today talking to y'all about making the most of it, about doing what you can with your time to make an impact in people's lives. And none of us can do that if we have that nagging voice in our head. And we all have that voice. So today I wanted to share a little bit about my journey in quieting those negative thoughts in our heads, what I have experienced, and how I personally deal with it whenever they pop up. So let's see. Just checking out how things are going. We have, alrighty. So let me jump right in and start talking to you about that little bee in your head. So I had a call last week with somebody, and it was really rewarding in a way too, that she was telling me how she's like, man, you always seem like you have it together. You know, you've done the speaking, you've done these trainings and presentations, and you always just seem like you got it all together. And I was like, I do, mostly. We all have a voice in our head that wants to tell us that we can't do something, that we're not good enough, that we're not smart enough, that we're not talented enough, that nobody's going to value what we have to say. Everybody experiences that. Man, woman, child, everybody at some point has those thoughts that creep in and try and keep you down. I personally suspect and feel that as a woman and other women in business, we probably have that a little bit more also, because it's almost reinforcing what others have told us throughout our careers. So I have spoken in front of large conferences. I've been at the Association of State Floodplain Managers conference many years and spoken there in front of anywhere from, probably 5 people to 200. I've done public meetings in front of angry crowds. I have done state conferences, local conferences, trainings in my own companies. I've done a lot of presenting and talking to people. And if you give me a microphone, I can stand up and talk in front of anybody about anything you want me to. Doesn't mean that no matter how polished it comes off or how prepared it comes off, I don't have that voice in the back of my head, because I do. So that voice kept me in my comfort zone for quite some time in my business. It's been easy for me to reach out to former contacts in my FEMA world and see how I can be of service, how I can be of use there, how I can make an impact through that aspect of my past and my network. But I wanted to do more. And I wanted to launch the Inspirational Leadership Accelerator. And it was hard. It was really hard for me to put myself out there in this way. And that voice had a lot to do with it. So I had to get out of my head if I wanted to do something big like this. And I knew I had to. So I started working on it. In the last couple of years, I put a lot of work into this. I've done a lot of reading on imposter syndrome, just done a lot of research and reading in general, not necessarily specific to the imposter syndrome, but about what causes it, what drives it, and just some of the other things going on in my life. There is a great book called Burnout, which I think I have behind me. The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle This was huge. There is one aspect that I'm going to talk about today that comes straight out of this book, and has been very important for me. And then I also went through some therapy for PTSD about a year and a half ago. And as we worked through the PTSD, I brought up this also and worked with my therapist. So kind of a combination of my own work, my own research, my own doing, as well as consultation with others, including my coach, who I'll give a shout out to at the end. I wanted to tell you the 3 things that I do to quiet that nagging voice in my head. So let's start with number 1, because that's a good place to start. The first thing you got to do, and you do this once, is you got to name that voice. Give it a personality. And that's one of the things that comes out of burnout. I started off calling her that B word. She was just that B word to me. And that's a little harder to talk about in public. So I thought maybe I'll find a different name for her. But I was mad. I was mad that she existed. I was mad that she had the nerve to tell me that I wasn't good enough and to make me doubt myself and to create this anxiety in me. So it was really hard to call her anything but that B word. And when I get to the second item, I'll explain more why I'm going to say this. But I found that you have to name her something that's not so derogatory, that's not so mean, because you have to show that voice a little kindness. So since I was kind of stuck on that B, I decided just to go with little b. And in my head, and this is one of the things that's in burnout too, is assign a character, make this a personality, make this someone that is separate from you. You want it to be totally separate because you want it to be somebody that is not your own voice. This isn't you telling yourself you're not good enough. This is this other voice. This is this other person. This is this other entity. It's not you. You believe in yourself. You can do this. You got this. But there's this other little voice. So assign a name and a personality. Mine is still B. I call her Little B. And in my head, she looks like B. Arthur in Golden Girls. That same like sour expression she always has, like ugh. And she's this little B, because I enjoy the double entendre there. Little B sitting here telling me that you can't do this. Nobody's going to want to talk to you about this. She's there. And the next thing I have to do, after I've named her and assigned her personality, and so when those thoughts come up, it's little B right here. The next thing you have to do is acknowledge why she's there. And this is really why I decided to change her name and treat her with a little more kindness. Because one of the things, as I talked through this with my therapist and told her that I named her that B word, she was like, it's still a part of you. And that voice isn't there to bring you down. The purpose of that voice is not to make you feel bad. The purpose of that voice is to protect you. It is a part of you and a part of your psyche that is trying to protect you from something. So it may be negative and it may tick you off, but it's also there for a reason. And you need to acknowledge what that reason is. So once you've named her, in the moment when you hear that voice throwing some negativity at you, acknowledge why. For me, if I go back to the example of launching the Inspirational Leadership Accelerator, for me, she was trying to protect me from putting myself out there in a new way, from going from this comfort of this network I had built and relationships that I've formed over the last 20 years, to really putting myself out there in a different way, to talking about things that very much relate to what I've done in the past, but are targeted at different people. And there's fear behind that. And the fear is what was driving those negative thoughts. The fear is what was making little B appear. And that fear was trying to protect me from getting hurt. You can put yourself out there on lives on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube And you can get really negative comments. You can get bad feedback. You can get no feedback, the worst of all, right? Nobody pays attention. Nobody thinks what you have to say is valuable. That's hurtful. So little b, for as much of a little b as she is also trying to protect me from that harm, from that hurt. So I have to acknowledge that she's not trying to bring me down. She's trying to protect me. That's number 2. Number 3, you name her. You acknowledge why she's there. And I call her she because mine's B. If yours is someone else, is any other gender, has no gender, is a little cloud hanging here, that's cool too. But you name the voice, acknowledge why it's there, and then the third step is to talk to her. That's going to sound weird. It's going to feel weird. You can do it inside your head. You don't have to make this an out loud conversation. But you need to tell her to knock it off. And why? So for me, going back to the example of launching Inspirational Leadership Accelerator, putting myself out there here on LinkedIn and Facebook, what I do is tell her, I see you, B. I know what you're trying to do. I don't need you to protect me right now. I've got this. I'm excited about it, and I'm going to do it right now. And it sounds weird. I'm talking to that little person on my shoulder, but it is liberating. It does reframe that completely from you, from that anxiety place, that place where you just feel like you're not good enough, to, no, man, I get what you're doing. I understand, but I don't need it. So thanks anyway, B. I got this. It takes practice. It takes repetition. But changing your mindset from those negative thoughts dragging you down to telling them to be quiet, that you've got this, that all is well, really can make a difference for you. So it's not this simple necessarily when you're starting from a very anxious place. Like I said, I've done a lot of work on myself, on some of the root cause of why I'm so negative, on myself, and why I beat myself up. A lot of reading, reflecting, therapy. A lot of things go into this. But once you kind of acknowledge that, you recognize that there's this negativity that you don't need, that you want to quiet, that you want to tell her where she belongs. These 3 steps help. Name her, acknowledge why she's there, and then just tell her to knock it off and why you got this. That's what I do personally. Like I said, based on just my experiences and what's helped me. I do want to also acknowledge that I have an amazing coach myself. Vanessa is a badass. And one of the things that she's actually done with me is about really getting rid of those limiting beliefs and clearing out a lot of the negative junk in your life. So I want to very much acknowledge her role in helping me get to the point where I can go through these 3 things every time one of those thoughts pop up and really make an impact on my mindset and be able to move forward. A lot of what we're talking about here with mindset, with the quieting that negative voice pops up when you're afraid. That negative voice pops up when you're about to do something big, when you're about to launch something, when you're about to take on something big, when you're about to go in front of an audience, when you're about to lead a group for the first time. These are the things we also work on inside the Inspirational Leadership Accelerator. And this advice is something I help people get to. This is something that the women that I work with will also be using in their day-to-day when they're about to launch into that next big thing, when they're about to lead a big team, when they're about to express their vision. We're going to work through this together also. So there's a lot that goes into quieting those thoughts. But once you really start to have it under control, going through these 3 items over and over will help. So with that, keeping it relatively short today, name her, acknowledge why she's there, tell her you don't need her right now. And those negative thoughts can be controlled and maintained, and then you have that power over them to be able to move forward. And if you are interested in working with me in the Inspirational Leadership Accelerator and growing your leadership abilities to becoming a stronger leader, creating a more cohesive, high-functioning team, and getting results, and schedule a call with me at the link below, and we can work through a lot of this. We can work through your negative thoughts. We can work through being a better leader, and we can work through so much that will enable you to just be transformative and inspirational in your organization. That's all I have for today. I really hope you all have a great end of your week, great weekend, and I will be talking to y'all later.